104.9 Coyote Country, time again for Fanboy Friday, so check in with me on the phone from Dallas, Texas, professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at bigfanboy.com, and show director at Dallas Comic Show, the one, the only Mr. Mark Walters. Good morning, sir.
What is up, my friend?
I'm excited because I know you've seen Deadpool 2, and we're going to talk all about it, the new film in theaters now. Everybody's excited about Deadpool.
I think the whole world is excited about Deadpool right about now.
You know, this is going to be an interesting little segment because for the first time ever, I've actually already seen Deadpool 2. So I'm really excited. I thought it was great. You're the critic, so I'm going to let you talk, and I'll just chime in with a couple of my thoughts, too.
Well, I posted up my full review at bigfanboy.com. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I mean, not that I wasn't expecting to.
Right.
But what I think really surprised me about it is, first of all, I dare say that I think it's funnier than the first movie. I think they really ramped up the comedy and kind of ramped up the whole self-referential comedy, you know, like the fact that Deadpool's always kind of breaking the fourth wall and thinking to the audience and whatnot. I mean, this really feels like, you know, they've kind of turned that up to an 11 and to the point of where I think you feel like you are part of this whole experience and not just a spectator of it and everything. And it's very, 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 very funny. I feel like I missed half the jokes because I was laughing so hard. So there's that. But then also I was kind of surprised that, you know, as much as this is just kind of this raunchy, ridiculous comedy, there's a lot of heart in this film, too. Like, it actually kind of surprises you. There's a couple of moments where, you know, there's some emotional scenes and there's some unexpected things that happen. And I was really impressed because, you know, it's not the kind of thing you would expect, first of all, from a Deadpool movie, but much less a sequel in a Deadpool movie. You know, you really wouldn't expect something like that to have, you know, kind of some emotional moments and something that really kind of, you know, can sort of surprise you in that way. So I was very impressed with what they were able to do. I think it's one of those rare sequels that kind of improves upon the original. Now, that said, I don't know that it's necessarily a better movie. I think it's more entertaining. It's probably a better, like, you know, movie-going experience, but I don't know that it's necessarily a better movie than the first one. But, you know, for what you're going into it for, you know, just kind of having that sequel experience and revisiting that character and introducing some new characters, I think it does a really good job on everything that it sets out to do. And I was very, very impressed with it. You know, probably the only thing that really didn't wow me, if I had to, like, give it any sort of criticism at all, is some of the new characters that they introduced. Like, for instance, Josh Brolin as Cable. He's this time-traveling mutant that comes back from the future he's going on a mission that he's trying to complete, and Deadpool ends up fighting him. The character of Cable he's just kind of there. I mean, like, there's really not a lot of meat to him. You know, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting necessarily, because that character is huge in the comic book series. I mean, like, you know, they introduced him in New Mutants. He's had his own series before. He's been all over Marvel Comics for the last 20 years. And so he's been a very popular character. He's been a character a lot of people have been wanting to see brought to the big screen. And so I was kind of excited to see that done as well. And I don't think that, you know, Brolin is fine. I mean, it's not that he does anything wrong in his performance, but I just wasn't really wowed by the character. I think I was expecting that to be a bigger or more impressive character. And then there's another new character that's introduced. It's a kid that has mutant powers, played by oh God, I forget his name. I think it's Kenneth Dennison is his name. He was in Hunt for the Wilder People.
Okay.
And he's interesting. He's inspired casting, but again, that character, you know, never really kind of goes beyond a certain point in terms of what they do with him. So there were certain new characters that I thought were cool, but they just didn't really wow me, you know, and maybe part of that is because Deadpool is so over the top,
right?
The character.
Yeah, I was going to say, in reference to what you just said, I think that maybe Deadpool is such a big personality that anybody next to him just seems minimized. Also, as far as the Cable thing goes, maybe we just saw Josh Brolin as Thanos, and he was just such a big, mean, bad villain, and Cable, by comparison, just, you know what I mean, just kind of seems like just your run-of-the-mill dude with some gear.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, considering his age, Josh Brolin is in tremendous physical shape. I mean, like when you see him in this movie, and I don't even think people get the full scope of it, because, I mean, I think there's maybe one scene in this movie where he's got his shirt off or something, but, I mean, he got himself in amazing shape for this role. he obviously took it very seriously and seemed like he, invested himself in it, read the comics, tried to figure out everything that, he was doing, met with Rob Liefeld, the creator of the character. And so, I mean, he took it seriously enough. And but, yeah, I think maybe that's part of it, is because of the fact that, Brolin is basically playing the straight man to Ryan Reynolds playing the clown.
Right.
And so when you see that in the movie, like you say, Deadpool is such a big personality that everybody kind of just sort of pales in comparison to him. And maybe that's unavoidable. At least in these types of movies, Deadpool's always going to be the star. Everybody else is just going to be
incidental.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, my 2 cents again, though, is coming into it from the last movie, I could not take my daughter, we've got an 11-year-old daughter, we know, I could not take her to see Deadpool 1. I can consider taking her to Deadpool 2. Still raunchy, still a lot of cussing, but not nearly as much gratuitous type sex stuff, which is kind of where I draw the line as a parent, taking my kids to sci-fi and action movies. So I kind of feel like it was more of a mainstream film. Like you said, it was extremely funny. And I'd like to know your thoughts on Domino, man. I just thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, Zazie Beetz plays Domino, and she's really good. She's been killing it, on what is the show? Atlanta? Is that the show she's on right now?
I think so,
She's
yeah.
got a couple of movies that are coming out that people may not be aware of, that are kind of smaller, independent fare. But she's great, and she's definitely one of the standout performances, and she's quite good. I was very impressed with what she did in the film. I hope to see a lot more of her in future movies and whatnot. They are talking about going forward, that maybe instead of a Deadpool movie, I think Ryan Reynolds even said this, that instead of another Deadpool movie, that we will very likely get an X-Force movie next. And so I think that would be kind of a fun, sort of evolution of these films, because in this film, one of the plot points, and this is not really a spoiler, it's in the trailers, but Deadpool assembles a team of kind of mutants, kind of like the X-Men.
Right. But
he wants it to be kind of like his own team, and so he calls it X-Force, which is a nod to the comic books, because they have a team called X-Force in the comic books.
Right.
And so they definitely set it up to where if they wanted the next movie to be an X-Force movie, it absolutely could. But there's also some surprises and some funny stuff that happens with that I think a lot of people are going to be shocked by. But yeah, I really I enjoy this, and I think you do hit on something that is an interesting point, and that is, unlike the first movie, while this is sort of raunchy and over the top and everything, I did notice what you mean, and that is that there's nothing that feels so gratuitous or so offensive that people couldn't find enjoyment from it. Whereas I think in the first movie, there's certainly parts in that first movie where even I was borderline offended. So this movie definitely, I think, does a better job of balancing out the ridiculousness and the over-the-top raunchiness and whatnot, to the point of where I do feel like you could almost take the kids to see this. Now, it is still very violent.
Right, yes.
Yeah, we shouldn't try to shy away from the fact that, yes, this is very violent. A lot of people die. A lot of people die in very violent ways, but I think it's more comedic.
Super graphic, yeah.
Yeah, so even when it's graphic, it's still it's funny, it's over the top, it's silly. But yeah, it's really fun. And I was also happy to see that, to me, this movie feels a lot more kind of like when you read the Marvel comics and you have crossovers with other characters. Mm-hmm. We get to see a lot of new characters in this movie, and we also get to see how this relates to, like, the X-Men franchise, and the fact that, I mean, in the first movie, there's that joke where Deadpool kind of goes and knocks on the door of the X-Mansion, but they never really show the inside of it because of budgeting. Well, this time around, he actually does go hang out in the X-Mansion.
Right.
They sort of evolve again, to show that not only is this another movie, but, we're getting to see more of Deadpool being immersed in the Marvel universe, if you will. So where it feels more like it's interconnecting with the films that we know previously.
Hey, one last comment on my end. I got to say this. I really enjoyed the way they used the music, the soundtrack, in the film. Yeah. Especially, you'll probably know what I'm talking about towards the end, in the big payoff, man. That classic 80s song by Aha. Oh, my Lord. Wow. Just mind-blowing.
There's a really great soundtrack in this film. Lots of really good songs. Wonderful score by Tyler Bates. The music in this one is great, and I'm actually, it's funny you say that because I do remember thinking to myself, sometimes I'm a big soundtrack collector.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when I leave a movie, I think to myself, well, that soundtrack didn't really do anything for me. And then sometimes I'll leave a movie and I'll think, man, I can't wait to pick up that soundtrack. Well, this is one of those films.
Yeah.
This is one of those films where I remember thinking there were so many cool songs.
So many.
The score itself is great. Yeah, it was very impressive.
Well, there we go. I think it's safe to say we both give it a big old thumbs up. So, yeah, man, Deadpool 2, rated R, in theaters now. Thank you for all that information, and go see that. Everybody go see it. It's just a great film. Of course, rated R, so keep that in mind as well. But what you got going on at bigfanboy.com, sir?
Well, not too much right now. We're gearing up for that release this weekend. We may be doing some local promotions with that. We're also gearing up for Solo, which comes out next weekend. So if you're a movie fan, these last couple of months have had a lot to offer. But yeah, Solo's coming up. I will tease this. I mean, we'll talk about it on next week's show, but I will tease this. I have seen Solo.
What?
And I won't go into like a full review.
Okay.
But I will say that it's good.
All right.
And I'll explain more about that on next week's show. So yeah, everybody tune in for that. But yeah, as far as bigfanboy.com goes, there's a new trailer for Mission Impossible Fallout, which looks awesome. If you guys haven't seen any of the trailers for that yet, it looks pretty cool. New trailer for a Mark Wahlberg film called Mile 22, directed by Peter Berg. And then, of course, earlier this week, we saw the trailer for a Bohemian Rhapsody.
Wow, yeah, that looks cool.
Freddie Mercury biopic, Queen, and Rami Malek from Mr. Robot plays Freddie Mercury. And my God, he just transformed himself into Freddie Mercury. I think, he's probably a little short, but as far as just the look of Freddie Mercury, he's got it down, man.
I mean, even that crazy jawline, and you know what I mean? It's insane. It's uncanny. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, cool. And, of course, your full written review of Deadpool 2 is on bigfanboy.com as well. So, very cool, man. It's great talking to you again, and I cannot wait to hear all about Solo next week, all right?
All right, man. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
All right, so once again, let's give it up to professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at bigfanboy.com, and the show director at Dallas Comic Show. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Walters. Have a great weekend, man.
Thanks, Robert.